What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the routes from one of the best route runners in college football today. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 9 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to St. Louis, Missouri. That camp is completely sold out. But then we'll be coming out to Honolulu, Hawaii, Boston, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys want some more information on that, how you can sign up for one of our camps, check out that very first link in that description below. We'd love to get you out there, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So we're going to be looking at routes here from Jameer Calvin. So if you guys have not seen his routes on Instagram, TikTok, I really suggest you look up some of his routes because he has some of the best teach tape out there, and that's what we're going to be breaking down today. So he is going to be running a corner route. Now, he is an insanely twitchy wide receiver, but he also has an extremely high football IQ. So he's going to be running this corner route versus this like outside shade catch technique coverage where the DB is sitting at 5 yards. So let's play this thing full speed, and this is a great example of how to attack leverage and use a rocker step to create separation. So on a corner route, obviously, fellas, what do you need? You need space for the quarterback to throw you open, especially when it's man coverage, because when it's man coverage, that quarterback is taught to put touch on the ball. So as a wide receiver, I need to set that up. I need to give my quarterback space to throw me open. So when we come up to the line here, number one thing that you have to have as a wide receiver is a pre-snap process. You got to identify 3 things. Number one, you got to identify the DB's leverage or shade. So obviously this DB is shaded to the outside. That means that he has outside leverage. So that means that he's probably has one of 2 things going for him. He's expecting an outside route, and he's trying to prevent the outside route. So he's trying to prevent any kind of outside release, etc., because he doesn't have any help out there. So he is trying to force us to the inside. In a real game scenario, he will probably have some kind of safety help there. So if I'm running a corner route, the mistake a lot of wide receivers will make is they think that on any type of outside route, out route, corner, fade, unless it's an MOR, that they have to take an outside release. But if this DB's outside shade and you force that outside release, his sole responsibility is to protect the outside. So he is going to keep his leverage. He'll weave to the outside. And even if you get around him, he's going to cut down the field space, and you won't have enough space to run your corner route, to run your route, to run your fade, and that's not a quarterback-friendly route. So all great wide receivers are comfortable taking what the DB gives them, which in this case would be the inside release. So he comes off the line here, and he closes the distance with him. Because remember, the second thing that you have to identify with your pre-snap process is how close or how far the DB is. So I got his shade, I got how close or how far he is, and then the coverage. Obviously, since it's one-on-ones, it's man coverage. But anytime that there's cushion between the two of us, I got to close that cushion. I got to step onto his toes so I can actually work to restack and get skinny on the route. Because there's one thing, there's attacking his leverage, but there's also closing the space and making him uncomfortable. Calvin here could just give a move off the line of scrimmage, attack outside, then go take the inside release. But if there's a bunch of space between him and the DB, this DB is just going to take the angle, react, and meet him at the break point, and you're not going to be able to get space. That's why so many people are uncomfortable with an inside release. They'll think, well, coach, what if he's right on my hip? You got to make sure that he's not on your hip, and that way you're able to stack him. So that's what closing the space and attacking his leverage does. Let's make him keep that leverage outside so I can take a free inside release. Now, when he works back upfield, this is where the separation happens. Your release is off the line, how you attack leverage, your pre-snap process. That is what helps you keep timing on the play and spacing on the play. But top of the route is how you get separation. So he has a great example of a rocker step here. And again, being able to do all of this on one play is super impressive because a lot of times wide receivers know how to do the release, but at the break point, they'll just round it off. And this is a very, very high football IQ level play. So he gets up to this break point. A rocker step is essentially a 2-step break at the top of the route. So instead of you just breaking off of your right foot and running the corner or just rounding it, he sells like he's going to be running a post. So the first part of this has to look like a post. He does a hard cut with the outside foot and pushes off of that outside foot to the inside. And you see how loose his upper body is. Because when a DB is in man coverage, his eyes are supposed to be watching where? His eyes are supposed to be watching your hips. So if you can sell the inside with your hips, not even necessarily stepping super far, just stepping quickly, you hit that quick 1-2 at the break, that makes that DB think post. And again, because we took that inside release, now we got separation and space for the QB to throw us open. This is an easy throw for a quarterback, any quarterback. I don't care what level it is. This is an easy throw because you got him space, or you gave him space and you got him separation. So let's play this again full speed. This is a textbook corner route here versus this outside shade catch technique coverage. Okay, so next example I want to talk about here is how guys out of the slot, out of the outside, who are maybe on the skinnier side of things, shorter side of things, can beat press coverage. So Calvin is probably on the skinnier side of things. Very tall dude, skinnier side, very quick, very fast, but sometimes those type of guys struggle against bigger physical safety linebacker type guys. So this is a great release that you can use to help you guys come to balance off the line, have some quickness to freeze the DB, but ultimately beat that physical jam. So this is going to be something called a split release. So I'm going to play this full speed, and this is an insanely twitchy release here from Calvin. And this is why, again, if you're on the skinnier side, shorter side, you have to have some quickness and some speed. It doesn't work if you're short and slow or skinny and slow. It just doesn't work. It's not. Some of these caliber of DBs at this next level are insanely physical, insanely good athletes. So you need to have some quickness element to it. So this split release is a release that I love against this physical DB. A split is essentially where you take your back foot and you bring it up even with your front foot, and your front foot goes out. You essentially split your feet. It's not a jump. You're not popping your pad level up. You want to pretend like you're underneath a small doorway, and you want to try to have as much twitch as you can to that split release, because this is a way to freeze that DB. It forces that reaction out of him. But when you guys get to this split release position, this puts you in a position of balance. It's very similar to, like, think of it like this. Like, I don't know how many of you surf or how many of you live close to a beach, but if you're on like a surfboard, let's say a skateboard as well. When you're on a skateboard, your feet aren't super close together because you'd lose balance like that. Your feet are in a good position, kind of balanced outside your frame. I wouldn't even necessarily say they need to be this wide on this release, but some kind of width to your feet to put you into a balanced, explosive position. So when this DB does get hands on us, I'm not completely screwed. I could just swat it off. I have a plan with my hands because my feet were sudden. It got a reaction out of him. But so many guys will come off the line against physical dudes, and they try to do all this foot fire release, these quick jabs, and their feet are inside their frame. You are going to get jammed and put flat onto your back when you have a narrow base and pop your chest up off the line. Let's pretend like I'm underneath the small door. Let's have some twitch with my feet, and let's split my feet to put myself in a balanced position. And again, he could go either way. He could go inside or he could go outside, because on this split release, you come to a position of balance. If he was running a fade and this DB jumped to the inside, and let's say he gave a little head fake inside on this split release, he could easily take the outside release because he's in a position of balance. That's why you bring your back foot up, even with the front foot, and widen your stance a tad. Stay in a low explosive pad level position underneath the small door, and this is a great release to use against a bigger physical guy. Let's play this again full speed one more time. Great job by Calvin, and great job winning on that slant route. Okay, so now, again, remember I said he's a very, very twitchy wide receiver. He's got insane skills, gets out of his breaks very, very fast. However, he has a high football IQ, and this is another example of having a very high football IQ running a slant route in the red zone here. So when you're in the red zone, we talk a lot about with your routes, and we're going to talk about this later as this video progresses, selling fade, right? Whenever a DB is in man coverage, even when he's in zone, you want to sell fade. You want to make him think that you're running deep, so he flips his hips. And a great way you can do that is obviously by running hard, running in full stride, and keeping a good body language position, not raising your chest up before you're about to make a cut. All of those things get him to flip his hips. But now think about the situation we're in. We're on the goal line, right? So on the goal line, that probably won't work. You running full speed to the back of the end zone probably isn't going to threaten the DB. He's going to think, good, go run out of bounds. That's fine by me. So you have to sell with other things. Now, you still want to sell the fade on a slant route, but it's more like a goal line fade. So let's watch this route, and then we'll break it down. So he comes off the ball, gets a little hesitation move, quick crossover, and is able to win on that slant. So again, I'm going to play it full speed one more time. What does this look exactly like? This is exactly how you would run a goal line fade in this situation. Now, he can't just go attack the outside shoulder with a ton of speed, because this DB's probably not going to be super threatened by that. He's going to stay right on that inside hip, and it's a goal line fade, so he doesn't have that much space to work with. There's no threat of you running deep on this, but there is a threat of him getting beat on a goal line fade. So it's all about making your releases look the same. The most unpredictable wide receivers can make their releases look the same. You look at Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson. What do they all do off the line? They all have that little hezzy skip, and they'll take off. They'll do that little hezzy skip, do a crossover fake and run a slant, maybe hit him with like a 1-2-3. They run an out route. There are many different things they could do, but it all looks similar. So when you're on the goal line, he comes off the ball, he gives this little hesitation skip, because again, how would you run a goal line fade? You would close space, you would threaten him inside, then you'd go outside. Now we're just making it look the exact same. We go with that outside shoulder, make it look like that outside fade, hips and shoulders just like that rocker step selling to the outside. Because remember, a DB is supposed to be watching my hips. So if I can sell with my hips, sell with that body language, actually step there, that's going to get that DB to open up. And again, that will create space for me back to the inside. So that is a textbook goal line slant route there from Calvin. Again, showcasing a high football IQ. DBs are smart, and DBs will continue to get smarter with all the information that's out there helping DBs. And DBs will study these videos too, just to see how wide receivers think. And again, they get smarter and smarter. They get better. They get more physical. They get faster. So we have to also evolve as that DB position evolves. And this is a perfect example of that. So let's play it again, full speed one more time. Great job by Calvin throwing that outside fake and then winning on that slant. Okay, so now, next example here is another example of an outside breaking route versus this outside shade coverage where this DB is sitting maybe about 5 yards off. So we talked about that on the corner, right? So on the corner, what you would want to do is you would want to maybe attack this DB's leverage, take the inside release, work to stack, and then break on the corner. Now, if you have to run a route where you're maybe breaking at like 8 yards, right? And this DB's 5 yards away outside shade, and let's say it's a 10-yard out. That may not work because you may not have enough space to stack. So you could attack his leverage and take an inside release, but the chances are that DB is going to be right on your hip at the break point. Or what you could do is you could go right off the line and attack his inside shoulder, but chances are he will probably still be at your hip at the break point. So you got to make sure as a wide receiver, we have a plan for that. You have to be able to run many different routes, many different breaks. And again, you don't, and by many, I mean like maybe 4 or 5 different ways. It's not like you got to learn 10, 12 different ways to run one exact route. Listen, the routes will differ, but the breaks you run will stay the same. So let's watch what he does here. So he comes off the ball, he gets a little tempo change, attacks the inside shoulder of the DB, and snaps down and uses that throw by. That is textbook in terms of a throw by move. Because think about this, fellas. It would be the same thing if you attacked his leverage and took an outside release. Because obviously, whenever I have man coverage and it's a form of press man, let's say he's maybe like 2 yards closer, my goal would always be to attack him, and the goal is to stack, right? I want to stack him. I want to get him trailing my back hip. But if I can't, I have to have a plan. I can't just throw my hands up in the air and quit and say, oh, the route's done, I didn't stack him. You got to have a plan, and you could still get separation with that plan. So you would take him, if he's in closer press, you attack, take the outside release right on your hip, you would do this exact move. Now that he backed up a little bit, now I don't even need to worry about the press release. I could just go attack that inside shoulder. I could self-fade. I could get him to flip those hips and then put the brakes on to slip back underneath. Again, a very, very high football IQ route. But let's talk about why this works, right? Let's talk about the mechanics here. Because again, this is middle of the field. This isn't like the last example we showed where it's on the goal line, right? So we can get this DB to commit to a deep seam, a deep fade, a deep cross by doing 3 specific things. When you run routes, the main big 3, when it comes to selling your routes, getting separation. Number 1 is speed. You don't got to be faster than the DB because you're already at an advantage. The DB is literally starting like with his back turned to you flat-footed, and we know exactly where we're running on the ball. So we just need some kind of speed. We don't even need to be faster than him. Let's just threaten him with my speed. So number 1, we got to run fast. Number 2, we got to run with full strides. So many wide receivers struggle with this because they're not confident at the break point. They can run hard. They run when full stride, but right before the break, they start chopping their stride. And that doesn't sell fade, and that doesn't sell your route. And number 3, you need good body language. So leading into the break, so many wide receivers will start to raise their chest up before they make a break, and that's another indicator. If you can do those 3 things and then be able to break on a dime like Calvin does right here, that will get you separation in these situations where you have to slip under, where you have to throw by. Another situation is maybe like you come up to the line, you got inside shade press coverage, and you got to run like a dig. You attack that inside shade press coverage. You take an outside release. He's right here. You self-fade, but we snap down on a dime, and I'm able to slip underneath, just like this scenario. So now, when I'm running full speed, when I'm going hard, at the break point, this is where a lot of guys also suffer. They don't have the technique. But this is why I think Calvin is such a great receiver, because he's got the IQ and he also has the technique. When you combine the two, you got a very, very tough guy to stop. Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, all those guys have the IQ attributes, but they also have the physical attributes. So at the break point, how do you decelerate while you're running full speed like that? Obviously, a lot of things tie in. You got to have some explosion. You got to have some fast twitch fibers going in your body. You also need ankle stability. You need the correct form on the cut, and you need leg strength. All of those things you need to have. So if you're a wide receiver and you neglect those things, you might have the IQ, you might know how to run the routes, but you physically can't do it efficiently because you're lacking in those areas. So it's a combination of both. So when you drop into this break, number one thing is you got to be violent. You got to have a violent drop of your butt, and that's that fast twitch that we talk about. So you need to sit in the chair, as I say. So when you sit in the chair, you want to try to bring your chin to your knee. You sit in the chair, chin to knee. That's a position, if you get there violently, you can slow yourself down. Now, when you drop violently, you need to make sure that we are not striking the ground on my heel. We are not reaching outside my frame. We are dropping violently, sitting into the chair to decelerate, and then my hands rip me and accelerate me out of that break. So it's all about selling fade. It's all about creating energy at the break point with the violent drop and then accelerating. Run those arms and use that violent drop to create explosion and create energy out of the route. Let's watch it again full speed one more time. This is a great router by Calvin. Great job selling that fade or selling that inside route and then throwing that DB by to create space. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to train with us in 9 more states this offseason, we have 9 more remaining quarterback and wide receiver training camps. Check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you out there. I'll see you guys next time.